When starting a game engine, the first thing you'll have to do is figure out how to render graphics. You could be a genius and do software rendering, but I'm an idiot. You could use Metal, but I don't have a Mac. You could use Vulkan, but I can't be bothered. So it's either DirectX or OpenGL, and Bill and I aren't really on speaking terms at the moment, so guess we're gonna go with the latter. Now, I've watched enough Tokyo Spliff to sort of know my way around OpenGL, but I thought as a quick refresher, I'll just bomb the Learn OpenGL course, and I got a triangle going, some boxes, some planets, the usual shit. And as someone that is crippled by nostalgia, this should be enough to render my ideal aesthetic. With graphics being drawn, I wanted to move on to skeletal animation, as there was plenty of that in my prototype. However, going into this, I knew I was going to be staring at a lot of academic slop and abstract mathematics, and I really didn't have the energy for it. Just making the nav mesh from my previous video completely burnt me out. So I desperately tried to inspire myself through the typical means of substance abuse and smoking cigarettes in the shower, but I just couldn't be fucked, and progress ground to a halt. Until one night while I was browsing my Goon folder before bed and I stumbled across this. Eliza. Wonder what's in there.
I can feel it bubbling. I know I'm getting on my team tonight, and I feel it feminine. Let's smoke a little lemonade. Let's go.
Yeah, cool. Let's learn skeletal animation. So, how does this shit all work? Well, we start by placing a series of transforms throughout the mesh to represent a crude approximation of the model's form. We then give these transforms relevant names, and there you go, we have our bones. But these bones aren't doing shit yet, so we need to do another step called weight painting. This involves us defining how much a bone will influence a vertice's position. We do this for every bone and vertex, and once this is done, we can arrange our bones into a series of lascivious poses which will deform our mesh in such a way that we get this animation. Very cool. We can now export this transform data and convert it into our representation of space, and there you go, we have our bones animating. Now we just have to skin our model. This is achieved by creating a matrix for each bone that encodes how to transform a vertex into the local space of the bind pose, apply the animation delta, scale it by the bone weight, and translate it back out into mesh space, which is a very repetitive task that this guy doesn't have to do, he's way too busy, so we can send it all to this dipshit. We do that by writing a skinning shader, and now when we apply it, oh shit, yeah, fuck, that looks mad. Alright, I'll chuck some more animations in there. Maybe we could do like an idle to run and... Oh yeah, fuck, we need to sort out blending. And to do that, we need to go all the way to Ireland, specifically to this bridge, where some fucking guy was walking around, probably drunk, begging for potatoes that weren't completely fucked up, when he suddenly conceived of a four-dimensional hypersphere that could describe rotation. And in an act of intense autistic fervor, he carved his formula into this bridge. And what we now know as quaternions make a lot of 3D games possible. Thanks, man. And I can now use them to blend these two animations together. Yuck, what is that? Alright, turns out quaternions are pretty complicated. So what the fuck's going on here? Well, if you're the type that thinks turning 360 degrees completes a full rotation, you're actually an idiot. It's 720. And this makes sense if you consider the object of rotation having tethers attached to it. Rotating by 360 degrees would have you all tangled up. It would take yet another 360 to arrive at the initial state. And this is exactly what's fucking us in the ass in this animation. I'll try and explain. Even though we can't draw quaternions because they're four-dimensional, we can draw a sphere and set the z-axis to 0. We can now plot a bone's 3D rotation onto the surface of this sphere, and we find we get 2 points that both represent the same 3D rotation but on separate hemispheres of the quaternion. And you might ask, who the fuck cares? Until I let both animations play out, where you can clearly see one of our quaternions is performing the desirable rotation. However, our other quaternion, whilst interpolating from the same 3D rotations, is taking the long way around because it's not the same 4D quaternion. It lies on the opposite hemisphere, which means we can use our bind pose to tell us which is the best hemisphere to blend in, and then we can negate any quaternion that isn't in this hemisphere, and we get our delicious blends. By this point, it was getting pretty late and Eliza had to bail. She was going to see some band in the city or something. I don't know. I think she's pretty popular actually. I did get a number though, which is pretty chill. And I stayed up for the rest of the night using the debug skeleton to implement some more animations, and it was all working really well, but these transitions are all based off hard-coded values, which is a pretty chud technique, and I'm really trying to impress Eliza. I wanted her to think I'm kind of cool. So I did some research into what women like, and apparently they're into really intuitive animation graph GUIs in the style of Unreal Engine, which is rather serendipitous because I like looking at state machine flow too. I knew I had to implement this in my own engine, and I also knew it was going to be pretty hard, so I locked myself inside and promised I wouldn't emerge until it was all done. Well, I have no fucking idea what day it is, but it's looking really good. So I summed up the courage to message Eliza and I told her to come around to my apartment. Shockingly, she said yes, so when she came around, we tried it out. So here it is, the node editor. Pretty happy with how it all turned out. It's got the usual functionality you'd expect, like change blend times, you can adjust the blend curve, you can see shit moving around. But easily my favorite part is the blend space. It works by calculating a normalized blend vector, which we find by solving this linear system of equations, and the result is this smooth interpolation. There's also an overlay system, which we can use to dynamically blend one animation on top of the other. For example, we could have this aim sweep that's driven by the player's mouse, and then we can have the run animation and blend them all together. Of course, we probably want some IK for the corrections, and that's here too. We can then orchestrate the control flow of these systems by arranging our nodes in the main anim graph. Yeah, pretty happy with it. But more importantly, Eliza really liked it. She took me on a trip to the Blue Mountains and yeah, we're in a relationship now. And honestly, dude, I'm so happy at the moment. I've got a girl, I'm working on this video game I really want to make, and yeah, like the engine's going to be a lot of work. Like I have to do a physics system, I'm going to have to do a lot more rendering, doing some like UI and a platform layer, and I'm going to have to do heaps more math, and fuck. Where am I going to find all the time for this? Wait, so Eliza's calling me. She wants to hang out. I can't. I'm too busy.
Charlie, Foxtrot, this is Little St. James. We're approaching the target. T-minus 2 minutes. Copy that, St. James. You're cleared to proceed.